The storm raged outside like it had a personal grudge. Thunder cracking the sky over Elmwood, Ohio, as if God himself was pissed at the world below. I slammed the kitchen door shut behind the delivery guy, his soaked pizza box already leaking grease onto the counter. When the lights flickered once, twice, and died with a pathetic pop, plunging the whole damn house into black. "Fuck," I muttered, fumbling for my phone's flashlight, heart pounding not from the dark, but from the sudden memory of another blackout years ago, the one that ended everything I thought I knew about love. That's when the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, cutting through the howl of wind like a knife. I yanked it open, expecting a neighbor or worse, a bill collector, and there he stood, drenched to the bone, toolbox in hand, his broad shoulders filling the frame like he'd stepped out of some fever dream. "Evening," he said, voice gravelly from the rain, eyes hidden under the brim of his cap. "Heard you called for an emergency fix. Name's Nick." Lights out. His words hung in the humid air of my entryway, thick with the scent of wet earth and motor oil clinging to his jacket. I nodded dumbly, stepping aside to let him in, my bare feet cold against the hardwood I'd sanded myself last summer in a futile attempt to fix what was broken inside. Elmwood wasn't the kind of place that forgave mistakes. It was a Rust Belt ghost town, all faded clapboard houses and factories shuttered since the recession chewed up our steel mills like they were candy. I'd come back here after 10 years in Chicago, chasing ghosts or maybe just running from them, to nurse my mom through her chemo. Now she was gone 6 months, and the house, our house, felt like a tomb with faulty wiring. Nick shook off his cap, water dripping from the dark curls plastered to his forehead, and I caught the first real glimpse of his face. Chiseled jaw shadowed with stubble, green eyes sharp as broken glass, a scar hooking down from his left temple like a question mark. He looked familiar, the way a half-remembered nightmare does, but I shoved it down. Electricians in Elmwood all blurred together after a while, rough tradesmen with hands like sandpaper and stories they never told. "Main breaker in the kitchen?" he asked, already striding past me, his boots leaving muddy prints I didn't have the energy to care about. I followed. The beam of his headlamp bouncing off the peeling wallpaper Mom had picked out in '98. Yellow florals faded to the color of old teeth. The kitchen was a war zone. Unwashed mugs piled in the sink, takeout containers from Gino's Pizza colonizing the table, and that godforsaken fuse box tucked under the counter like a dirty secret. He dropped to one knee without preamble, prying open the panel with a screwdriver that glinted in the low light from my phone propped on the fridge. "Tight fit here," he grunted, his voice echoing muffled from the cabinet's depths. "These old houses, man, wiring's like veins clogged with regret. Gonna have to snake my arm in blind." I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed to hide the tremor in my hands. Regret. Yeah, that was my middle name these days. Alexander Regret Hayes, 34 and counting the ways I'd fucked up my life. High school valedictorian turned corporate drone, outed by a leaked email at 24, blackballed in the Windy City scene. I'd loved once, fiercely, stupidly, and it had burned me to ash. Now, I fixed cars at the local garage, popped painkillers for the ache in my shoulder from a bar fight I didn't remember, and jerked off to memories I pretended weren't there. A spark popped from the box, blue and vicious, and Nick cursed under his breath. "Easy, girl," he murmured to the wires, like they were a skittish horse. His arm vanished elbow deep, muscles flexing under his soaked shirt, the fabric translucent enough to trace the tattoo snaking up his bicep. A compass rose, petals of ink blooming like forgotten promises. My throat tightened. I'd seen that tattoo before, in the bleachers behind Elmwood High, under the sodium lights of the football field, where we'd stolen kisses that tasted like rebellion and rain. No. Impossible. Nick was dead to me. Or at least, that's what I'd told myself after he vanished senior year, leaving me with a note that said, "Can't do this anymore," and a heart shredded finer than confetti. Nicholas goddamn Riley, the golden boy quarterback who'd promised forever and delivered silence. I'd hated him for a decade, nursed that hate like a bruise I pressed just to feel something. He shifted, grunting again, goddamn tight fit, and then froze. His headlamp beam caught on something inside the cabinet, illuminating the dust bunny graveyard we'd ignored for years. Slowly, deliberately, he withdrew his arm, not with wires in hand, but with a small, battered envelope clutched in his fist. Yellowed at the edges, my handwriting scrawled across the front. To Nick, from Alex. Do not open until you're brave. My stomach dropped like I'd been sucker punched. What the hell is that? I rasped, but my voice cracked, betraying me. Nick rose to his full height 6'2", easy, towering over my 5'11" frame and turned, the envelope trembling in his grip. Rain still dripped from his hair, carving paths down his neck, and his eyes. God, those eyes locked on mine, stripping away the years like they were paper thin. Alex, he whispered, the word breaking like thunder in the quiet. Alexander Hayes? Jesus Christ. It's you. He didn't wait for confirmation. Instead, he dropped to his knees again, not for the wires this time, but right there on the filthy linoleum, envelope extended like an offering. I never opened it, he said, voice raw, choked with something that sounded like sobs held back by sheer will. Kept it in my wallet. Every deployment, every shithole bar from Kabul to Quantico. Thought you'd burned it. Thought you'd forgotten. Forgotten? The word ignited something feral in my chest. I snatched the envelope, the paper crisp under my fingers despite the years, and tore it open without thinking. Inside, a single photo, us at 17, arms slung around each other on the hood of his beat-up Chevy. Grins wide and unscarred, the quarry lake glittering behind us like a promise we couldn't keep. Tucked beside it, my note. If you ever doubt us, remember this. We're infinite. Tears blurred the ink, and I crushed the photo to my chest, the betrayal flooding back hot and immediate. You left, I snarled, voice echoing off the cabinets. You fucking left me, Nick. After everything, the closet, the beatings from your old man, the whispers in the halls. You said you'd fight, and then nothing. A note. Gone. Enlisted and erased. He didn't flinch, just knelt there, head bowed, rain pooling around his knees. I know, he murmured, so soft I almost missed it over the storm. I was a coward. Dad found out, beat me black and blue, said he'd kill us both if I didn't straighten up. Marines were my out. But I never stopped loving you, Alex. Never. That's the secret. I'm here because I came back for you. For us. The world tilted. Outside, lightning forked the sky, illuminating his face older, harder, but still the boy who'd held me through my first panic attack, whispering that we were safe in each other's arms. But safe, we'd been anything but. Elmwood had chewed up queers like us, spat out husks. My coming out after he left had cost me friends, family fractured, a job I clawed back from nothing. And now this, him, on his knees, begging absolution with a secret that could shatter what little I'd rebuilt. I wanted to kick him out, to scream until the windows rattled. But my hand reached out instead, fingers tangling in his wet hair, pulling him closer. "Prove it," I whispered, the words tasting like ash and hope. "Prove you didn't come here to break me again." His hands found my waist, tentative at first, then desperate, pulling me down to the floor with him. We crashed together in a tangle of limbs and lies unspoken, mouths crashing like the storm outside, tasting salt and regret and the faint copper of blood where my lips split against his teeth. It wasn't gentle. It was war, years of pent-up fury pouring out in bites and bruises. His stubble scraping my throat as he murmured apologies into my skin. "I never stopped," he gasped, fingers clawing at my shirt, exposing the scars I'd earned fighting shadows of him. "Every night in the desert, it was your face. Your voice. I wrote letters I never sent, dreamed of this." I shoved him back, pinning him against the cabinet, my knee between his thighs, feeling the heat of him through denim worn thin. "Letters? Dreams? That's bullshit. Nick. You vanished. I mourned you like the dead." But even as I said it, my body betrayed me, arching into his touch, the familiar calluses on his palms mapping paths we'd burned into each other as kids. The fuse box sparked again, forgotten, casting erratic shadows that danced like demons on the walls. He flipped us with marine precision, hovering over me now, his weight an anchor in the chaos. "Then let me make it right," he breathed, lips brushing my ear, voice laced with that Ohio drawl I'd ached for in anonymous Chicago hookups. "Let me show you." The kiss that followed was slower, deeper, a confession in fragments. His tongue traced the seam of my lips, coaxing them open, and I let him in, tasting whiskey and want, the storm mirroring the one building in my veins. Hands roamed, shedding wet clothes like old skin. His shirt peeled away to reveal the taut planes of his chest, dog tags glinting cold against fevered flesh. My jeans shoved down, exposing the tattoo I'd gotten in spite of him, a broken compass on my hip, pointing nowhere. We moved like we remembered, bodies sinking in a rhythm honed by stolen summers in the woods behind the tracks. He was rougher now, battle-hardened, hips grinding with an urgency that spoke of lonely nights and near misses overseas. "Alex," he groaned, fingers digging into my thighs, spreading me open on the cold floor. "God, I've missed this." "Missed you." I arched up, nails raking his back, drawing red lines that made him hiss. "Don't say my name like that," I panted. But it was a lie. I craved it, needed it to drown the doubt. When he entered me, slow and deliberate, it was like coming home to a house on fire, bliss and ruin intertwined. The world narrowed to the slap of skin, the creak of floorboards protesting our weight, his breaths ragged against my neck. Climax hit like lightning, shattering us both, leaving me trembling in his arms as aftershocks rippled through. We lay there afterward, tangled and spent, the power flickering back on with a hum that felt mocking. The kitchen light buzzed to life, harsh and unforgiving, illuminating the mess we'd made, clothes strewn like casualties, the envelope crumpled beside us. Nick traced lazy circles on my chest, his touch gentle now, reverent. "I got out last year," he said softly, voice steady for the first time. PTSD. Honorable discharge. Been drifting, taking jobs like this one. But I saw your name on the service call, Hayes Residence. Knew it was you. Drove through the night from Pittsburgh just to see if you'd hate me enough to call the cops. I laughed, bitter and broken. I should, but I didn't pull away. Instead, I turned, pressing my forehead to his, breathing him in. What now? Nick, you drop this bomb and think we pick up where we left off. Elmwood's still the same shithole. My garage buddies would string us up if they knew. And you've got a life out there. His eyes darkened, that scar pulling tight. No life without you. That's the secret, Alex. The real one. I never married, never even tried. You're it for me. Always were. For a heartbeat, I believed him. The rain eased to a patter, and in that fragile quiet, I let myself imagine it. Us, against the odds, rebuilding on the bones of what we'd lost. But as dawn crept through the blinds, painting gold stripes on his sleeping face, a shadow stirred in my gut. Secrets like his didn't stay buried. And mine, they were just waiting to claw their way out. Morning light sliced through the kitchen like a verdict, turning the chaos of last night into something almost domestic, almost. I woke first, Nick's arms slung heavy across my waist, his breath warm against my shoulder blade. The fuse box hummed steadily now, a reluctant witness to our reunion, and the air smelled of coffee I'd forgotten to brew and the faint musk of us. I extricated myself carefully, not wanting to wake him, and padded to the sink, splashing cold water on my face. In the mirror's cruel clarity, bruises bloomed purple on my neck, a map of surrender I wasn't sure I regretted. Elmwood stirred outside, the distant rumble of semis on I-71, Mrs. Kowalski's terrier yapping at nothing, the world turning oblivious to the bomb that had detonated in my crumbling bungalow. I poured 2 mugs from the pot I'd set on timer. Black for me, 2 sugars for him, muscle memory kicking in like no time had passed. When I turned, he was sitting up, sheets pooled around his hips, rubbing sleep from his eyes with that boyish squint that used to make my knees weak. "Mornin'," he drawled, voice husky from disuse, accepting the mug with a grateful nod. His gaze lingered on the marks he'd left, a flicker of guilt crossing his features before he masked it with a crooked smile. "You look good, Alex. Tired, but good." "Like you," I snorted, settling on the floor across from him, knees drawn up like a barrier. Flattery won't fix the wiring in my soul, Riley, but there was no bite in it. Not yet. We sipped in silence, the kind that could go either way, comfortable or charged, and for a moment, felt like the quarry days, when we'd skip last period to smoke pilfered Camels and dream of escaping to San Francisco, where men like us could walk hand in hand without whispers turning to fists. "Tell me everything," I said finally, setting my mug down with a clink. "No bullshit. The years. The why." He leaned back against the cabinet, dog tags catching the light, and exhaled slow, like he was defusing a grenade. Marines were. Structure. After Dad's rages, I needed orders. You know, basic at Paris Island. Then Afghanistan '09. Lost my first squad to an IED, kids younger than us. Blown to mist. Came home on leave. Tried calling your folks' number. Disconnected. That's when I knew you'd moved on. Moved on. The words stung, sharp as glass. I clawed my way out of here, Nick. Chicago was supposed to be freedom art school, gallery openings, guys who didn't flinch at holding hands in public. But the email leak. Some asshole coworker forwarded my Grindr chats to HR. Fired on a Tuesday. Outed to my parents by Friday. Mom cried for weeks. Dad just looked at me like I was a stranger. Came back here to die slow. Fixing transmissions instead of lives. His face crumpled. Mug forgotten as he reached for my hand. Christ. Alex. I should have been there. I was stateside in 12. Saw your exhibit in some zine. Alexander Hayes. Fractured Horizons. Drove to the city. Staked out your loft like a stalker. But you were with him, that tall blonde from the photo in the article. Laughing. Oh. I couldn't ruin that. Him. The ghost I'd buried deeper than Nick. Jordan, with his trust fund ease and promises of forever in a Brooklyn brownstone. We'd lasted 2 years. Built a life of Sunday brunches and shared canvases. Until the betrayal hit like a freight train. His texts to an ex. Late nights at client meetings. The night I came home early to find them tangled in our bed. I packed a bag and fled back to Ohio. Tail between my legs. Vowing off love like it was poison. You saw that. I pulled my hand away. The rejection fresh even now. And you just watched, like some tragic Romeo in the shadows. Worse, he admitted, eyes dropping to the floor. I wrote you then. A letter, real one this time. Mailed it to the old address, care of your folks. Said I was sorry, that I'd wait forever if you asked. Mom never mentioned it. But the way she'd softened in her last months, pressing that photo into my hands with a watery smile. He was good to you, once, suddenly made sense. She'd kept his secret, hoarded it like a talisman against my bitterness. She burned it. I lied, testing him. Or maybe she kept it for herself. Nick's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Wouldn't blame her. I was poisoned back then. The conversation lulled, heavy with unsaid things, until his phone buzzed on the counter, vibrating insistently, shattering the bubble. He glanced at it, color draining from his face. Shit. Work. Already. I arched a brow, masking the pang. Last night had been a whirlwind. Daylight brought logistics, the grind of real life. Union gig, he explained, standing to dress, muscles rippling under skin I knew too well. Big install downtown hospital retrofit. Can't bail. He paused, jeans half-zipped, vulnerability cracking his armor. Dinner? My place. I got a trailer off Route 42. Nothing fancy, but let me cook. Steak. Like old times. Old times. The words pulled at me, a riptide of nostalgia. Yeah, I heard myself say. Pick me up at 7. He grinned then, that lopsided flash of teeth that had undone me at 16, and leaned in for a kiss soft, lingering, tasting of coffee and possibility. It's gonna be okay, Alex. I swear. He left with a promise and a toolbox, the door clicking shut like a period at the end of a sentence we'd yet to finish. I spent the day at the garage, wrench in hand, grease monkeying F-150s while my mind replayed the night in loops. His hands, his confessions, the way he'd whispered my name like a prayer. By 5, doubt crept in, whispers from the past. Jordan's voice in my head. You're too broken for this, Alex. Too small town. But 7 came, and so did Nick, pulling up in a battered Ford Ranger, headlights cutting the twilight fog. His trailer was a step up from my bungalow, neat, the Spartan, with string lights twinkling over a deck he'd built himself. Inside, the air hummed with sizzling meat and garlic, classic rock low on the radio. We ate cross-legged on the floor, beers in hand, trading stories like currency, his deployments, the buddy who'd saved his life in Fallujah, my failed exhibits, the painting of the quarry I'd sold for peanuts to fund Mom's meds. Laughter came easy at first, bubbling up like we'd never parted. But as the second beer warmed my veins, questions sharpened. Why now? I asked, fork midway to my mouth. 10 years. Nick. What changed? He set his plate aside, green eyes steady. You. Seeing your name on that call sheet, it was like fate grabbing me by the balls. But truth? I've been in therapy. VA shrink says I gotta face the ghosts. You're mine, Alex. The best and worst of him. Therapy. The word hung, unfamiliar on him, the unbreakable quarterback, reduced to sessions and scripts. It humanized him, made the Marine mythos crack just enough to let light in. We cleared plates, bodies brushing in the cramped space, sparks igniting anew. On the couch, a sagging relic from his folks' garage sale, he pulled me into his lap, hands framing my face. I love you, he said simply, no qualifiers, and kissed me like he meant to etch it into my bones. That night blurred into passion's haze. His trailer bed creaking under us, windows fogged against the chill, bodies moving with a tenderness last night's fury had lacked. He was attentive, mapping every scar and sigh, whispering endearments in the dark. Beautiful, mine, home. I came undone beneath him, walls crumbling, allowing myself to believe in redemption. But dawn brought the call. My phone, not his dad's number flashing like a warning. Alex, get to the hospital. It's Jordan. Car wreck on the interstate. He's asking for you, Jordan. The name hit like shrapnel, embedding deep. Nick stirred beside me, concern etching his brow as I dressed in a frenzy. X, I muttered, the word inadequate for the wreckage he'd left. Gotta go. I'll drive, he offered, but I waved him off. This was my mess, echoes of betrayal I hadn't exorcised. At Mercy General, the ER reeked of bleach and despair, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets. Jordan lay in a curtained bay, swaddled in bandages, face a roadmap of purple swells and 4 lines snaking like veins. Alex, he croaked, hand outstretched, the emerald ring we'd picked together glinting mockingly. Knew you'd come. Still love me? The question twisted the knife. Love? It had been a cage once, gilded but confining. I'd fled it for solitude, only for Nick to crash back in. What happened? I asked instead, taking his hand because mercy demanded it. Wiped out on black ice. Other driver. Gone. Tears tracked clean paths through the grime on his cheeks. I was driving to you. To beg. I fucked up. Alex. The affair. It was a panic. Dad's expectations crushing me. But you're it. Forgive me? Outside, snow began to fall, fat flakes muffling the world. Forgiveness. The word echoed Nick's pleas, a mirror I hadn't asked for. I squeezed Jordan's hand, whispering half-truths, we'll talk later, and fled to the parking lot, where my truck idled like a faithful dog. Nick was waiting at the trailer when I returned, coffee steaming on the step. "Bad?" he asked, reading my face. "Worse than bad." I collapsed beside him, the confession spilling out, Jordan's wreck, his plea, the tangled knot of past and present. Nick listened without interrupting, his silence a gift, until I finished. Then, softly, "You owe him nothing, Alex. But you owe yourself truth." Truth. It burned, illuminating the chasm. Jordan had betrayed me with lies, Nick with absence. Both scars, but one felt like home. I leaned into him, snow dusting our shoulders. "Stay tonight," I murmured. "Help me forget." He did, and we lost ourselves again, slower this time, snow falling like absolution outside. But as he slept, I stared at the ceiling. The life-changing secret he'd revealed now a double-edged sword. Love returned, but at what cost? Jordan's call had cracked the door to old wounds. And betrayal, I knew, lingered like frost, beautiful until it bit. The week that followed was a fragile truce. Elmwood's winter wrapping us in a cocoon of sub-zero nights and hearth-like evenings that felt stolen from someone else's life. Nick's jobs kept him on the road, rewiring strip malls in Akron, troubleshooting generators in Cleveland, but he always circled back, his Ranger's headlights a beacon in my driveway by 9. We'd fall into patterns. Takeout from Lupe's Taqueria, boots kicked off at the door, bodies colliding on the living room rug with the TV droning infomercials for abs we didn't need. It was romantic. In that gritty American way, two blue-collar guys carving space from the mundane, his marine discipline syncing with my artist's chaos. He'd wake me with coffee and sketches, flipping through my old sketchbooks with a reverence that made my chest ache. "This one's you," he'd say, tracing a charcoal study of a figure in shadow, all edges and light. I'd laugh it off, but inside, something thawed, the permafrost of isolation giving way to tentative green shoots. We talked, too, in the afterglow hours, voices low against the radiator's hiss. He shared war stories stripped bare. The buddy who'd OD'd on fentanyl back from tour, the letter he'd written to the guy's wife. "Guilt's a motherfucker," he'd say, fingers interlaced with mine. "Eats you alive if you let it." I'd counter with my own confessions, the panic attacks that sent me to ERs in Chicago, the canvas I'd slashed after Jordan's cheating, shards of it still in a box upstairs. Sex wove through it all, a language we spoke fluently, mornings urgent and animal, pinning each other against the shower tiles with steam clouding the glass, nights languid, exploring with mouths and murmurs, his lips charting the constellation of freckles across my collarbone. "Your poetry," he'd breathe, entering me slow, eyes locked like anchors. And God help me, I believed him, let myself be the verse to his rhythm, body slick and synced under the quilt Mom had pieced from our baby clothes. But cracks spiderwebbed beneath the surface. Jordan texted daily from his hospital bed, updates on surgeries, photos of wilting flowers, please wrapped in nostalgia. "Remember Paris? We can have that again." I delete them unread, but the pings were grenades, exploding doubt. Nick noticed, of course, his eyes sharpening over breakfast, questions unspoken but heavy. "You good?" he'd ask, casual as checking the oil, but I'd nod, shoving the unease down like bad whiskey. Then came the conflict, sharp and unyielding, on a Friday night 3 weeks in. I closed the garage early, Picked up ribs from Smokey's barbecue as a surprise, the sauce staining my fingers red as I pulled into the drive. Nick's truck was there, earlier than usual, and laughter spilled from the open window, his deep and rolling, mingled with another voice, lighter, teasing. I froze on the porch, key in hand, heart jackhammering. Through the screen, I saw them, Nick at the stove, apron tied loose over his jeans, flipping burgers with a grin. Across the counter, Jordan, discharged that week, crutches propped nearby, gesturing animatedly, his free hand on Nick's arm, that easy intimacy of old money charm. What the fuck? The door banged open, ribs hitting the table with a thud that silenced them. Jordan's face paled. Nick spun, spatula mid-air, eyes wide with guilt. Alex, babe, it's not. Not what? I snarled, vision tunneling red. You too, cozy as thieves. In my house? How long? Nick, since the hospital? Or did you plan this little powwow behind my back? Jordan hobbled forward, hand raised like a white flag. Alex, wait. I called him. Needed a ride from PT insurance bullshit. He was just helping. The word spat like venom. I rounded on Nick, close enough to smell the grill smoke on him. And you didn't think to mention your new BFF is my cheating ex? The one who gutted me. Nick's jaw worked, apron strings dangling like nooses. He reached out after the wreck. Said he was sorry. Wanted closure for you. I thought, fuck, I don't know. Thought I could vet him. Make sure he wasn't circling back to hurt you. Vet him. Laughter bubbled up, hysterical and hollow. Like I'm some asset you secure? This isn't your op. Nick. This is my life. Our life. And you're entertaining the asshole who made me doubt every touch, every promise. Jordan interjected, voice cracking. He's right, Alex. I fucked up. But seeing you happy kills me. I just wanted to say goodbye. Clean. Get out. I whispered, then roared it. Both of you. Now. Nick moved first, reaching for me, but I jerked back, the betrayal a live wire between us. Alex, please. I love you. This was stupid. Stupid? Or convenient? The words flew before I could cage them, poison born of pain. You waltz back in, all hero with your secrets, but maybe you're just like him, taking what you want, leaving wreckage. He flinched like I'd struck him, color draining. Jordan crutched out mutely, door slamming behind, but Nick lingered, eyes glistening. I'm not him, he said, voice breaking. I'd die before hurting you. Then why does it feel like you already have? He left with the apron still tied, truck peeling out into the sleet-slick night. I sank to the floor amid uneaten ribs, sobs racking me until my ribs ached. Betrayal wasn't new. It was the Hayes family heirloom, passed down like Dad's war stories or Mom's quilt. But this, Nick's involvement twisted the knife, making me question every I love you, every postcoital whisper. Saturday blurred into isolation. Garage radio blaring Springsteen anthems about broken highways. My hands black with oil as I rebuilt a carburetor like it was my heart. Texts from Nick piled up. Apologies. Please. A voice male hoarse with regret. I fucked up. Alex. Let me fix it. Please. Jordan's were sparser. Laced with manipulation. He's using you. Come back to the city. We fit. By evening, the house echoed empty. shadows lengthening like accusations. I cracked a beer, scrolled old photos, us at the quarry, frozen grins, and the dam broke again. Love, I realized, wasn't the fairy tale. It was this, the gut wrench, the gamble, the grace in choosing anyway. A knock shattered the quiet. Not Nick's, too tentative. Dad on the stoop, thermos in hand, his flannel the twin of the one Nick wore. Heard from the boys at the VFW, he grunted, stepping in without invite. Marine kid stirring shit. You okay, son? Dad, stoic steelworker, widower who'd barely spoken when I came out, but who'd shown up with tools after Mom's funeral. Silent solidarity in every hammered nail. We sat at the table, coffee steaming, and I spilled it all. Nick's return, Jordan's ghost, the tangle of trust shredded fine. He listened, calloused fingers drumming the mug. Love's a battlefield, Alex. Seen it in Nam. Seen it in your ma's eyes when she looked at me. Hurts like hell, but the alternative? Emptiness. He paused, eyes crinkling. That Riley boy. He fought for this country. Maybe he's fighting for you now. Question is, you fighting back? His words lingered as he left, a seed in barren soil. I texted Nick, trailer. Now. 20 minutes later, he arrived disheveled, eyes red-rimmed, flannel untucked like defeat. Alex, shut up. I pulled him inside, door slamming, hands fisting his shirt. You hurt me. Bad. But Dad's right. I'm tired of running. Our kiss was desperate. Teeth and tears. Collision course. Clothes shed in the hall. We stumbled to the bedroom. Bodies a battlefield of bites and begs. He took me against the wall first, hard and claiming, growling mine into my neck as I clawed his back. Then slower on the bed, faces inches apart, breaths mingling in confessions. I'm sorry. I know. Don't leave. Climax crested like a wave, leaving us adrift in sweat-damp sheets. His head on my chest, heartbeat sinking hours. But as sleep tugged, his phone buzzed, ignored at first, then insistent. He silenced it with a curse, but not before I glimpsed the name, SGT. Riley, official. VA plates. Work, I murmured, feigning drowsiness. Yeah, he lied, voice muffled. But the seed Dad planted sprouted thorns. Secrets. Again. And in the dark, doubt whispered. What if his life-changing revelation was only half the story? Winter deepened its claws into Elmwood. January's bite turning the Ohio River to a steel mirror. Factories exhaling plumes like dragon's breath against the iron sky. Nick and I patched our rift with deliberate normalcy. Shared shifts at the diner for greasy hash browns. Weekend drives to the Cuyahoga Valley for hikes where we'd fuck in the pines. Leaves crunching under us like applause. Romance bloomed in small acts. Him leaving wildflowers swiped from roadside ditches on my dash. Me sketching his profile in grease pencil on shop napkins. Capturing the scar's hook like a lover's mark. Yet the buzz from that night gnawed at me, a splinter under skin. I didn't press. Trust was a muscle, atrophied in me, and pushing might snap it clean. Instead, I poured into us, a gallery submission for a Cleveland show, my first in years, abstracts of fractured light that Nick called us in paint. He beamed when I told him, pulling me into a bear hug that lifted me off my feet. Proud of you, babe. Gonna knock him dead. His pride fueled me, but shadows lengthened. Jordan vanished from my phone. Blocked. A clean surgical cut, but his specter lingered in nightmares. Him and Nick laughing. A betrayal tableau I'd wake from sweating. Nick's arms tightening in sleep-murmured reassurance. Just dreams, he'd soothe, making love to me languid and deep, until dawn painted us gold. The climax brewed slow, then erupted on a Tuesday in the garage's back bay. I was elbow-deep in a '72 Mustang's engine cherry red, belonging to Old Man Hargrove, when the bay door rattled up, admitting a blast of Arctic wind and a figure in crisp BDUs. Not Nick. This guy was wiry, buzz-cut blonde, chevrons gleaming on his sleeve. "Hayes?" he barked, scanning the bays like a sweep for hostiles. "Yeah." I wiped grease on my rag, heart stuttering. Marines didn't wander into Rust Belt shops for oil changes. Sergeant Ellis, USMC liaison. Looking for Nicholas Riley. Got a bead on him. The world tilted, tools clattering from my bench. "Nick? Why?" Ellis's eyes narrowed, official mask cracking just a hair. "Personal matter. Family emergency." "You his POA or something?" I shook my head, mind racing. Family? Nick's folks were long gone. Dad to cancer, mom to booze-fueled despair. No siblings he'd mentioned. "He's around." "What's this about?" "Classified till we locate him." He handed me a card, embossed eagle glaring. "If he checks in, tell him Uncle Sam's calling collect." Urgent. He left as abruptly as he'd come, truck roaring into the flurry. I pocketed the card, hands shaking, and finished the Mustang on autopilot, Hargrove's attaboy barely registering. By quitting time, suspicion had fermented to certainty. That buzzed call, the lie. Nick was hiding something, and it smelled like the past rearing its uniformed head. I confronted him that night over meatloaf at the trailer, the oven's warmth doing nothing for the chill between us. "Marine buddy dropped by the shop," I said, casual as passing the peas, watching his fork pause midair. "Sergeant Ellis," said Uncle Sam's calling. Nick's face shuddered, green eyes storming. "Ellis? Shit. Probably just admin. Back pay or some bullshit." "Bullshit." I set my fork down, the clink echoing. "He said family emergency. And you lied about that call last month." "What's going on?" "Nick, the real secret, the one you dropped to your knees for. Is it more than I love you?" He pushed back from the table, chair scraping like nails on chalkboard. "Alex, it's nothing. Old unit drama. Let it lie. Let it lie." Heat rose, betrayal's embers flaring. "Like you let Jordan help? I'm done with half-truths. Bill, or I'm out." Silence stretched, taut as a tripwire. Then, defeated, he nodded. "Fine. But not here." We bundled into his truck, heater blasting futile against the gale, and drove 40 minutes east to a overlook above the river, tires crunching gravel as we parked. Snow devils danced in the beams, the water below a black ribbon veined with ice. He killed the engine, cab plunging into intimacy's hush. "Remember that deployment I glossed over? Fallujah 11. His voice was gravel, hands clenched on the wheel. "Squad got pinned in a market, insurgents everywhere, RPGs lighting up the night. I took shrapnel saving Mikey, kid from Texas, barely 20. Medal for it, but Mikey, he didn't make it home. OD'd last year, like I told you." I nodded, the story familiar. So what's Ellis want? Nick turned, eyes glistening in the dash glow. Mikey's sister. She's got a boy 5 now. Turns out, Mikey wasn't straight edge like he claimed. One night in Kuwait, drunk on bootleg Iraq, we hooked up. Once. Thought it was buried. But she found his letters. DNA test confirmed. The kid's mine. Alex. My son. The revelation landed like a mortar, cratering silence. Son. A child blood. Legacy. A tether to a life Nick had never mentioned. 5 years, I whispered, math clicking cold. You've known. 6 months. Shame etched his features. Letters from her. Postmarked Austin. I ghosted at first, PTSD screaming I wasn't fit. But then you. Seeing you made me want to be better. For us. I was gonna tell you, after the gallery show. Clean slate. Clean. Laughter cracked. Jagged. You kneel in my kitchen. Spill your secret love. And withhold this? Kid. Nick. That's not a footnote. That's a chapter. He reached for me. Desperate. I know. I'm scared shitless. But with you. I thought we could face it. Be a family. Family. The word twisted, evoking Mom's frail hand in mine, Dad's gruff silences, the queer orphan I'd become. And what about me? Your family? Tears burned. Hot traitors. Or am I just the interlude before daddy duty? No! He cupped my face, thumbs swiping salt. You're everything. The letters, I kept them hidden, but they're proof. Let me show you. Back at the trailer. He unearthed a shoebox from under the bed. Dog-eared envelopes. Photos of a towhead boy with Nick's green eyes. Crayon scrawls signed love. Tommy. Reading them gutted me, her pleas for child support. His drafts of replies marked unsent. I want him in my life, Nick confessed. Voice breaking. But not without you. We made love that night on the trailer floor. Urgent and undoing, him inside me. Faces buried in necks. Sobs mingling with moans. Stay, he begged. Thrusting deep. Build this with me. It clung. Climax a fragile bridge. But dawn brought clarity's cold edge. A sun changed everything, visitation battles. Texas trips. A future where I might always be the outsider. I left before he woke. Note on the pillow, need time. Love. Alex. The gallery acceptance email pinged as I drove. Congratulations. Fractured horizons selected, irony bitter as bile. Success, but hollow without him to share it. Days bled into a week of radio silence. Elmwood's gossip mill churning. Hayes brooding again. Riley's truck parked funny. Dad dragged me to the VFW for wings and wisdom. His pat on the back worth more than therapy. Boys like us, he said. Nursing a bud. We fight dirty wars. But love, that's the Purple Heart. Jordan resurfaced then. A voicemail slurred with painkillers. Heard about the Marines bastard. Run. Alex. Back to me. Blocked again. But the poison seeped. The breaking point came at the gallery opening. Cleveland's warehouse district buzzing with wine sippers and critics in ironic glasses. My pieces hung stark under spots. Shatterpoint. A canvas of splintered glass over quarry blue. Reclamation. Ink washes of hands interlaced against rust. Nick showed. Uninvited. In his best button-down. Eyes scanning until they locked on mine across the crowd. He wove through. Glass of Merlot in hand. stopping before reclamation. Beautiful, he murmured, voice thick. Like you, Nick, my heart hammered, betrayal and longing at war. You came, wouldn't miss it, he turned, close enough for cologne and clean soap to envelop me. Missed you more. The crowd blurred. We stepped into a side alcove, shadows cloaking us. The boy's real, he said, handing me a photo, Tommy on a swing, grin gap-toothed. Met her last weekend. She's willing to co-parent. But only if you're in, the word caught, a sob. As what? The uncle? The boyfriend who tags along? As my partner. He knelt then, not dramatically, but earnest, ring box from his pocket glinting. Not diamond, obsidian, simple band etched with compass points. Marry me, Alex. Make us a family. Tommy, you, me. Against the world. Tears fell, splashing the stone floor. The crowd's murmur faded. It was just us, the boy from the bleachers asking for forever again. Yes, I whispered, pulling him up, kissing him fierce amid gasps and flashes. Our coming out, public and proud. But as cheers erupted, my phone vibrated, Ellis again. Riley located. Emergency extraction. Report ASAP. Nick's face paled over my shoulder, the ring heavy in my palm. Joy's peak. And the fall began, his past not buried, but clawing free. The proposal's afterglow shattered like cheap crystal 2 days later. Uncle Sam's summons landing via certified mail on my doorstep. Sergeant Nicholas Riley. Immediate recall to active duty. National security imperative. No details. Just legalese stamped with eagles and stars. A ghost from Fallujah yanking its chain. Nick sat at my kitchen table, our table now, scarred with knife marks from prep nights, staring at the orders like they were a death warrant. Extraction, echoed, pacing the linoleum, the ring box burning a hole in my jeans pocket. What the hell does that mean? You were discharged, honorable, PTSD and all. He rubbed his scar, eyes distant as sniper scopes. Classified op. Old units short-staffed. They can reactivate for critical skills. Mine's CQB, close quarters. The market shitshow they pinned the medal on. Bitter laugh. Tommy's timing. Huh? Just when I sign on as dad. Dad. The word still Jared. Conjuring Tommy's photo. Chubby cheeks. As like Nick's. Innocent as untouched snow. We'd video called her Lila, Mikey's sister, last night from the trailer, her Texas twang warm over static. He's excited to meet you, she'd said, panning to the boy waving sticky fingers. Us grown-ups can figure the rest. Custody shares, holidays split like Berlin walls, and now this, a deployment that could orphan the kid before he knew his father. I stopped pacing, hands on his shoulders, feeling the tension coiled like springs. Fight it. Lawyer up. They owes you that much. Can't. His hand covered mine. Rough palm grounding. Oaths for life. Alex. Refuse. And it's desertion, prison, dishonor. Tommy'd grow up knowing his old man as a traitor. Traitor. The irony stung, echoing my accusations post-Jordan. Betrayals will turning again, but this time not by choice. We clung that night, love-making a dirge, slow thrusts, tear-salted kisses, his body mapping mine like a soldier memorizing terrain before battle. Wait for me, he whispered, buried deep, our rings clinking soft. Mine slipped on in the alcove's hush, his matching band a vow etched in black stone. 6 months. Tops. Then home. To you. To us. Dawn came cruel, his duffel by the door like an accusation. I drove him to the airstrip outside Akron government charter, blacked out windows swallowing him whole. At the chain-link fence, we kissed goodbye, wind whipping our coats, his dog tags cold against my chest. Love you, he said, simple as breath, and boarded without looking back. The flight home was a blur, Elmwood's lights smearing like wet paint. Dad waited with chili on the stove. No questions, just a nod. Strong stock. That one. I nodded back, choking down beans that tasted of ash. Days stretched to weeks, a limbo of grease and galleries. My show reviewed in the Plain Dealer. Hayes captures queer resilience with raw Americana grit. Nick's texts pinged from God knows where. Desert heat like home. Miss your sketches. Tommy drew a truck today. Love you. Jordan's final betrayal came mid-March. A manila envelope FedExed to the garage. Photos. Grainy but damning. Nick in a dive bar overseas. Arm around a local. Lips too close to an ear. Tucked inside. A note in Jordan's script. Knew he was playing you. Come back to NYC. Real love waits. Rage boiled. But under it, grief, for the boy I'd glimpsed in that photo. For the family we'd sketched in stolen moments. I didn't call Nick. Trust, fragile as it was, deserved the benefit. Instead, I drove to Pittsburgh. Lila's address from the box, arriving unannounced with a Hot Wheels truck for Tommy. She met me on the porch, 40-something firecracker in yoga pants, Mikey's blue eyes in a woman's face. Alex, she said, hugging fierce. Heard about the ring. Congrats. Tommy toddled out, shy at first, then beaming at the toy. Uncle OX? He lisped, and something cracked in me, hope, fierce and unbidden. We talked for hours, co-parenting blueprints, my art, her nursing gig. Nick's solid, she said, tucking him in. But scared. Like his letters said. You ground him, ground him. I flew back with resolve, commissioning a mural for the trailer's side. Compass rose entwined with quarry waves, our names in subtle script. Nick's leave hit in May 2 weeks, a mirage of normalcy. He stepped off the bus at the station, duffel slung, and swept me up, kissing like parched earth drinking rain. Missed you, he growled, hands everywhere, propriety be damned. We honeymooned in the trailer, lazy fucks on the deck under stars. Tommy's video calls met with goofy faces and promises. Daddy home soon, Nick cooed, and the boy giggled, fist-bumping the screen. But the op loomed, a sword over idol. One night, post-climax tangle, he confessed the full secret. Ellis's recall? Its extraction, rescuing a defector in Syria. High risk. If I don't go, you do. I traced his scar, accepting. And you come back. For him. For us. He did, miraculously, and scathed. Airlifted stateside in July with a story classified tighter than Fort Knox. Discharge papers final this time. No appeals. We drove to Austin that fall. Tommy in the backseat chattering about dinosaurs. Lila shotgun with maps and grins. Court was amicable, joint custody. Holidays alternated. A new chapter inked in legalese. Elmwood softened to our edges. Dad babysitting with gruff affection, garage buddies toasting the family man over beers, my next show selling out, Horizons Reclaimed, dedicated to Nick in the catalog. Romance endured in quiet ways. His hand in mine at the county fair, stolen kisses in the Mustang's cab, nights where we'd dance slow to Coulter Wall on the radio, bodies swaying like willows. Betrayal scars faded. Not gone but gilded lessons in grace, in choosing fight over flight. The life-changing secret? It wasn't the love or the sun, but the truth we'd forged from ruins. Queer love in America's heartland, humanistic and hard-won, a testament that even in rust and regret, we rebuild. Tommy calls me Papa now, his drawings taped to the fridge beside mine. Nick kneels sometimes, not for secrets, but to tie the boys' laces, or propose again on anniversaries with that same obsidian gleam. And in those moments, under Ohio skies vast as forgiveness, I know we're infinite,